Hello everyone, Daniel Yuck here. Thank you all for tuning in today. I appreciate you. Today we're going to go ahead and kick off episode 8 from our tattoo critiquing series here. So for those who aren't familiar, this series consists of you as a tattoo artist submitting your work on into me so that way it can be featured here on these episodes. Now, my goal is not to discourage, to shed any sort of shadiness or hatred or anything weird like that upon these episodes. My genuine goal is to possibly share another angle, give some more artistic insight, and just kind of share with you all the thought process and what I see when I see the work here live. So again, I just like to reiterate that earlier on in the videos where I'm not here to discourage, I'm not here to spread hate, I'm not here to do any of that. I am here to simply spread my artistic insight and possibly help you see things from another angle. So with that being said, should you have any questions at any point throughout this video, please, I encourage you to drop a comment below. I'm going to do my absolute best to assist you in the best possible direction. With that being said, let's go ahead and dive straight on into this. Okay, so let's go ahead and kick off episode 8 here of our tattoo critiquing series. And the first submission is going to be from an individual named James Kimball. I truly appreciate your submission. Thank you very much. And at first glance, one thing that I am noticing is that the line work isn't bad at all. I mean, it's not great and it's not bad at all. Like, I can see a bit of line weight inconsistencies, and allow me to point some out. So like right here in this area, the line looks as though it gets a bit thinner over, say, this line right here. Like this line right here that was pulled is decent. I'm not sure if we stopped right here and then we came back in. So I think tapering in and out may be kind of an issue, but in terms of, putting the ink into the dermis, that's kind of being understood more based off of the line work that I am seeing. One thing that I will say though is the consistency. I think the consistency is going to determine the line weight overall, and how consistent the line looks when you pull it. So if I were pulling a line, one thing that I'm still working on as well is I always forget to try and find the optimal position. I always just feel this need to kind of rush the session. I always just naturally fall into that flow. So I always try to practice patience, and I'm always reminding myself to find those A to B's to really be able to take my time to pull one steady, consistent line. And this right here, this one may have been too long to pull in one pull. So I would have tapered out like so, and then tapered back in however I could. But you get my drift. So one thing that I would recommend to try is to find a comfortability prior to pulling the lines and, getting that flow. Like right here to this right here, this maybe was a wobble, a needle wobble. The needle may have been hanging out too far. We could have just simply wobbled along the way. But right here, little things like this start making up over time throughout the entire tattoo. So therefore it's declining. So every time something like this happens right here in our sessions, the quality of the tattoo goes down, and we have to keep that in mind. So what I'm saying is, if it was, let's say if you got a bigger line weight and you just simply went back over them like so, that would make for a much better read. But the lines have to be consistent all the way through and around is basically the point that I'm trying to illustrate. So right here as well, I'm not sure if these are taper in and outs, and if that's what it is, then we would definitely want to work on that. But as you can see, just kind of naturally going back over with a bigger line weight always does well, especially if we're consistent upon going back over. So as you can see right there, so little by little the tattoo does start making up for a better read. And like right here on this end right here, this is a bit thicker. I'm not sure if these should have been identical or as close as possible, but these are a dramatic difference from one another. It's all of these little things that my eyes are reading at initial read when I first see the tattoo. So that's what I'm gravitating to the most right now. So I think in a nutshell, for James Kimball, I would just recommend a bit more patience, and I would try to A and B, like find that patience so that way you can A and then B. Okay, it's a clean line, you clean it up, A, B, clean that line, and then you repeat that process nice, steady, and continuously. Even just correcting these little areas is making for a better read here. But this tattoo right here can be easily optimized. I'm not gonna say fixed or anything because I don't really see any. It's not a bad tattoo in my opinion. Like, bad tattoos are bad tattoos. This is just a rather incomplete tattoo in my opinion, which is great. I started, all my first tattoos were all incomplete. But long story short here, we can see line weight, consistency, steadiness, smooth, clean lines all the way through would make for a nice, clean tattoo. I genuinely appreciate your submission, James Kimball. If you have any questions at all, please, I'm encouraging you to drop a comment below. I'm going to do my absolute best to assist you in the best possible direction. Also, I would recommend working on tapering in and out. Try and get comfortable with tapering in and out. Yet again, James Kimball, I truly appreciate it. The next submission is going to be from an individual named Juan Rodriguez right here. And also, one thing that I noticed is on the backgrounds, for example, I do see like right here, also for James Kimball, this right here, since it's exposed to open skin, if you were using this as like a brace under the arm, I would have recommended to wrap this up with saran wrap completely, so that way this isn't exposed to any fluids. So it's little things like that. Like right here, we have some sort of like carpeting or blanket. You keep that away from the tattoo. You know, everything should be covered in plastic. Everything should have barriers, especially this close to the tattoo. So that's another thing for James Kimball as well. Juan Rodriguez right here. I'm not sure if this is your plastic site. I'm not sure if these are plastics right here from cleaning up, but there should be a layer of saran wrap. That's just my opinion, so that way we could avoid stuff like this. Unless this is your paint table and you don't care, to each their own. I'm not here to tell you how to practice. But for this one right here, I do get the style of this tattoo right here in terms of what you were going for. Allow me to start matching line weights and stuff here. Okay, so for me, I personally love floral. For this specific tattoo right here, I do feel like there may be a disconnect in terms of how comfortable you may be with the gear that you were using. So that I feel like something to that extent may be going on in the back end. Forgive me there. I can't be too certain. However, what I would recommend though is to get a bit more acquainted with your equipment that you are using and try to figure out ways that you can hold your gear and conduct yourself more comfortably that fits a more comfortable flow on your end. Why I say that is because right here, if we look at the lines, it looks as though we tried one and we didn't get it, and then we went back over, and then we kind of just shook the way through. So I don't know how long you've been tattooing either, so I'm just stating as I see here. What I would recommend is getting comfortable and or more acquainted with the gear that we are using, and then after that, once we get comfortable, we can start getting comfortable with pulling lines and actually applying a tattoo, from placing down a stencil to pulling lines, shading, etc. What I would recommend though is when you focus on lines, after being comfortable with your gear, try to, again, get from A to B. You're going to hear me pretty much say that to everyone who needs line work, work on their end, because it's all the same. Line work for me doesn't really change besides the design. The only thing that changes is the design that I'm doing in terms of applying the tattoo lines. It's pretty much the same. So as you can see, A to B, and I'm connecting the design here. I don't leave any open areas like we do right here. So little things like that will contribute to the quality of the tattoo, and it will affect the readability, which then is going to affect the way that people see the tattoo, and we have to remember these things. So what I'm saying is, if we look here closely, if there's any other, this part right here, we have that part open, there's this part, and I'm pretty sure there may be more along the way. There's this one right here, this one. You get the idea. Overall, this starts adding up, and the design begins to become different, in my opinion. So again, be comfortable, be confident when you pull lines, and be consistent each and every line, like so, like so. And then once you start following the design all the way through, completing the design as it's there in the stencil, it's going to make for an entirely better read on the overall tattoo. And that's just the way that I see it. That's just how I always approach my tattoos as well. And I'm doing my best to see the design here. I'm not sure if this is correct, but I like the way it looks. And you can see, like right here as well, this line is far from complete. It's little things like this that start depleting from the overall quality of the tattoo. So as I start to do the lines here and make them a bit more consistent and cohesive, I'm even adding a little extra details here, just because I would have done that on the real tattoo. I like the way that that looks. I would have also, from here, just try to be more consistent. To fix something like this, you would maybe want to go back over with a bigger line weight, a bigger needle, and just simply go over the lines that are there. And always remember A and B. A is where the first design starts and where you're going to start from. B is where the design ends and where you're going to touch to. So A, oh, my fault. A right here, and then B all the way through, if you can do it. B, as best as you can. And again, that's pretty much the approach all the way through. So like right here, A, and then B. A, B, A, B. And that one I just whipped it out there, as you can see. So you get the overall idea. Focusing on the line work, I feel is a great place to start getting a bit more acquainted with the gear and figuring out a nice way to hold the machine that's going to provide you with optimal results. And another reason why I say that is because the shading right here is a bit blotchy. I don't feel like we're acquainted enough to shade yet, and that's just my opinion. That's how I see it. So I would recommend to also just get more acquainted, and as you see right here, try to clean things up when you do apply the tattoo. If you notice that your needle's wobbling when you're pulling lines, try and pull your needle a little bit more in. If you need more throw, put the needle a little bit more out. You get my idea. Like, keep a practical workflow. Like, there should be a reason why you're making the moves that you're making each and every time that you're making a move upon tattooing. Overall though, you get my idea. I would also recommend spraying like some distilled water mixed with a little bit of alcohol onto the table, and then putting saran wrap down so that way it sticks there and it'll stay there. I would recommend doing so. But all in all, I hope that can help you. If you have any questions, Juan Rodriguez, by all means, please feel free to drop a comment below. Just to reiterate and recap, I would just recommend getting more acquainted with the gear, messing with different settings, and then getting comfortable with pulling lines. Once you get comfortable pulling lines, continue approaching it the same way that you were here. If you have any questions, yet again, Juan Rodriguez, drop a comment below. I truly appreciate your submission. So on to the next. The next one is going to be Sephem Aristotle. Now, I am pretty sure I am not saying that right, so forgive me. I'm going to go ahead and just stick with the first name, Sephem. I appreciate your submission. Off the bat right here, one thing that I'm noticing is that this design is very elaborate. It's a dragon. There's detail. It's in your face. There's a lot going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a smaller brush size here. So as you can see, for me, some things that stand out, and this is going to be fully subjective. Again, remember, everything that I'm saying in these videos is 110% opinionated. This is not by any means true or anything like that. It is just the way that I see the art per my style. So again, please, I don't mean to offend anyone or come off like I am better than anyone or anything like that. That is definitely not the intent here. So for this one though, I can see a lot of detail. Now for me, the imagery here, the details get a little bit lost within one another, and allow me to explain. So right here, like in this area, I do understand that there's a mouth right here because of the teeth, and then there's this part of the dragon, and then right here I'm assuming that's a part of the body right there. However, the way that the shading was applied, like for example right here in this area, I feel wasn't thoroughly thought out, or it could have been thought out a little bit better. What I would do is, and one thing I'm also noticing is that the lines here are very like soft, not small but soft. Like you can see, like for example right here, this line's not really as pronounced and prominent as these right here, and then also right here as well, you can see like this line is a bit more pronounced and prominent over the others around it, like such as these right here. You get my drift. So those are little things that stand out off the top. What I would have done though for this area right here to make it a bit more, I guess, interesting, and I guess in my opinion better, is I would have gone over with maybe a same line weight, and I would have just kind of redone the lines and literally just retouch them up, giving them more definition, making them more pronounced, like so. You can kind of see that it does make a small difference here, just making these little changes. And I'm not sure if I'm true to the actual design here, and forgive me if I'm not, I apologize. But even little adjustments like that, it does make for a tremendously better read on these tattoos. But overall, this is a really nice design. The tattoo execution wasn't bad at all. I just feel like, again, that's a personal preference. I just would have went with heavier lines. That's me personally. So doing this little part right here, as you can see, it's making for an entirely different read on the tattoo, and it would apply to the entire tattoo. So let's say if I got like a 007 round liner, and I just simply went back in and literally just kind of took my time and touched everything up, I do really feel like that would make for a tremendous difference on the tattoo. I'm not sure if that's the look that you were going for. However, that's how I feel about this specific tattoo. You can see just touching up a few aspects right here do make all the difference. We could even touch base over here on this flower, as you can see right here. So as you can see, as I'm adding little lines here into the design for the flower aspect, it starts changing. In my opinion, things start becoming more pronounced. So that's what I would do. I would simply get like a 007 round liner. Is probably the needle size I would use. Even maybe a 9 would do. 009 round liner. And just go back in here and touch these up, making sure that I'm using that, not, you know, that needle weight all the way through, and it's not inconsistent lines, and that would make for an awesome read, make the tattoo look a lot more meaner. And again, that's just in my opinion. So something to this extent, as you can see, there is more pronunciation, so to speak, if you will, within the design. Now, I do hope that that can help you with this right here. In terms of like shading, I would recommend, I'm not sure if you're using a gray wash system or a homemade gray wash system. I would recommend looking into the dynamic gray wash system, the 20, 40, 60, and 80 set that I've done a review on, and that may actually give you consistent results as well. The shading for me on this, I'm not a big fan of either, because in certain areas it looks blotchy, like right here. You know, I feel like the shading could have been a bit thought out better. That's just how I see it though. But yeah, that's just a shading. We can get into that in a completely different video. But for this, I think the essential, the bare bone core that can make this tattoo optimizable right now today would be going back over with some lining. It'll look fabulous. It'll look great. It'll look a lot meaner, a lot more pronounced. Now, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to drop a comment below, and I'm going to do my best to assist you. I genuinely appreciate your submission, Sephem. The next one is going to be from Kevin Joshua. As you can see right here, we do have a submission. Now, if I'm correct, we did try to do some stippling here. I'm sure that this was a practice session. Now, one thing that I'm noticing off the top is, I guess, how would I say this? I don't want this to hurt as much, but there looks like there's a lack of confidence upon applying the tattoo in this one. And the reason why I say that, Kevin, is because if I look close here, the consistent blowouts are apparent right here, 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 right there. Excuse me, right there. And you get the idea. So they're everywhere. The blowouts are literally everywhere. Now, what that tells me is that when we were doing this tattoo, we weren't sure where the ink was going to go. We didn't know what, basically, I guess, not to say what we were doing, so to speak, but we were probably not as acquainted as we should have been, maybe something along those lines. And what I would recommend though, now I would let this tattoo heal completely, just let it heal over. This can be fixed into something great. I mean, it can look flawless. I would go back over it with maybe like a 14 round shader, and then in here maybe like a 9 round shader, or a 14 round shader for here and an 18 round shader for here, like a real bold outline. And allow me to illustrate that here as well. I can actually show you what I'm trying to say rather than just say it. Okay, so why I say bolder outlines is because a lot of blowouts here. Again, one thing that I would recommend that we work on is going back to the chop block and taking some fake skin, so that way we get the idea of the feeling, that resistance, that sound that we need to know about prior to putting in the ink. If we're trying to learn that resistance and that sound on human skin, this is going to be a result, continuous blowouts. However, again, this will be fixable by going over with a bigger line weight, I feel, and go like that, and then we kind of just literally go over the tattoo as if it were a stencil and just apply the entire tattoo. I think with the bigger line weight, the idea is to cover the blowouts that are existing under, like so. And then like with the eyes as well, just simple lines all the way through, and you get the idea the majority of the of the blowouts and everything get covered. But for this sort of issue right here, what I would recommend to work on is getting acquainted with pulling lines and adjust yourself along the way. So when you're doing a tattoo, making sure that you're adjusting, you're comfortable A and B all the way through. And I myself am still definitely working on that. I tend to get a little ahead of myself and want to speed things up for whatever reason. But as you can see though, just simply going over with a bigger line weight makes all of the difference. And that's what I would recommend to you, getting some fake skin and then going to the chop block and getting acquainted with the resistance and the feeling and the sound that the machine makes and that the skin makes upon inputting the ink into the dermis. Now, I do hope that that helps you in a better direction of some sort. This would be just bare bone lining. I would work on the stipple shading after we've gotten comfortable with lining, because at that point we would have a lot more experience under our belt and a lot more technical approach in terms of what we're going to do and how we're going to pull the lines, and we'll just have more skill sets to be more equipped to do that. So I would take it back to the chop block, practice lining on some fake skin. Should you have any questions at all, please, Kevin Joshua, feel free to drop a comment below. I'm going to do my absolute best to assist you in the best possible direction. The last one is going to be from Disastrous Graphics, as you can see right here. Now, one thing that I recommend is upon getting fresh tattoos, don't put them on anything like this. This looks like a couch right here. Try to, if you're not gonna wrap the tattoo with like Sanaderm or something to keep it from the outside world for like at least the first 24-48 hours, we have to be more mindful of where we're placing the tattoo. We don't want a fresh tattoo, I just don't want to get a fresh tattoo and then go sit on the couch like that, because if you've seen any of my videos as well on human skin, when you pull lines, blood excretes from the pores and from the wounds that we open on that skin. So we have to cut the skin to apply the ink. When that happens, we have blood coming out. That's going to be everywhere. It's a great way to risk infection. This right here is also another great way to risk infection by just simply rubbing it on things. So I want to point that out as well. If it's not covered, be real mindful of how you conduct yourself if you're not going to have Sanaderm. Now, for Disastrous Graphics right here, these tattoos look really, really clean right here. Well, let me rephrase that. These tattoos right here, they look nice overall. They read well. In my eyes, there's no like apparent bad readability. I'm like, oh, it's a decent tattoo. So when I look closer though, when I start getting more picky, that's where I start noticing a bit of problems. Now, pretty much everyone is going to do this. Everyone is going to tear a tattoo apart. Everyone is going to nitpick a tattoo. So we always want to do our best. One apparent thing that I am noticing is there are a couple of blowouts on the tips of the leaves. And I think that these happen because we went from A to B and then A to B. And upon doing that, we went too deep in this area, spreading the ink when we put that in there like that. So I would recommend finding a better approach. So that way, when you do have to come back into a point, you are not blowing those points out. Because if you look here, it looks as though the blowouts are almost consistent on every point. So what that tells me is that it's the application, it's the way that the tattoo is being applied. Now, what I would do is, if I'm going to be doing the leaves like this, I'm going to go ahead and taper out at the end. And then I'm going to taper in and then taper out right there. That's how I'm going to approach that, as opposed to one blunt force move like that. As you can see, I'm not trying to create a fire look. I want to taper in and out those edges right there, so that way when I do come back on that edge, it doesn't blow it out, if that makes sense. So tapering in and out is very important. So the line work though, it's fairly decent. It's there in the skin. I can see it. Again, at first readability, it doesn't read bad. When we zoom in though, we do notice those blowout points and a bit of inconsistencies here. One thing that for me that takes away a little bit is the darkness, is the shading areas and the application. Now like right here, you can see it looks as though there's streaks that are going this way, and then there's some streaks that are going this way, and you can see that it doesn't really blend well together. So the shading begins to look blotchy when we start layering like that. And for me, the shading reads like that. The shading reads as a bit blotchy. It's a bit dark right here. I don't know what's happening in the design. It looks as though there's just like an actual, you know, circle of just dark, as if we actually just, you know, put black in there like that for whatever reason. But you get my drift. So the shading, I feel, could have been a bit thought out better. And the line work, I would have chose a bigger configuration personally. I probably would have gone with like maybe an 11 round liner, a 0011 round liner, which is smaller than standard. So I would have gone, you know, and put some really pronounced line work into the overall design, so to speak, because that's what I like. My styles are dense lines, mean, in your face, a lot of lines, a lot of details. So that's what I like. And that's why I say that. And if you notice, the majority of my videos are referencing people's line works and showing them possible ways that they can try to better their lines. So the shading, it looks better though, in my opinion, with a bigger line weight. And as you can see, I'm just going to try and demonstrate a little bit more here for you. So as you see though, as I start adding these little details here with, these lines here with a bigger line weight, in my opinion, it is making for a better read in the tattoo. I like the way that that looks better than with a thinner line weight. And that is 110% subjective. That is not true by any means. It's just some may agree, some may like the smaller lines, some may like the bold lines. Everyone's different. For me specific, I think that this would have been a good way to go by bolding out the lines like so. Maybe with like a, again, 11 round line or something like that. But as you can see, I would definitely have gone with a bigger line weight. All in all, and also the, again, like I said, the gray wash, it is a bit too dark for me. So I would definitely, if you're making your own gray wash, I would recommend looking into one that's already made so you get consistent results across the board each and every time. All in all, let's go ahead and recap it for you. I would recommend trying to figure out the most appropriate line weight for the design at hand. I would recommend working on your tapering in and out upon pulling lines, and then I would recommend working on seeing areas of shading differently. I would recommend working on shading a bit more. So if there's any questions though that I can help you, Disastrous Graphics, by all means, please feel free to drop it in the comments below. I myself am still working on all of this I list in this video. That's why I speak from my experience, because I am going through it with you all. Yet again, I truly appreciate everyone that submits here into our tattoo critiquing episodes. It truly means a lot. If you have any questions at all, if anyone has any questions, I'm going to encourage you one last time to drop those comments. Drop them below. I will do my absolute best to assist you in the best possible direction. I also have social medias all under the same name as my YouTube channel, Daniel Yuck. I have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, all under Daniel Yuck, DanielYuck. I would truly appreciate the support on there. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for me and ring that bell, as I'm going to be bringing more videos like this for you all. Thank you for tuning in yet again. Y'all have a great day.